welcome to CEC Gurukul lecture. In continuation with the series on economic sociology, in today's lecture we're going to understand the different ways in which economic sociology has been conceived and defined. Here in this lecture we are going to refer specifically to the article by Alberto Martinelli, and the name of the article is The Conception and Definition of Economic Sociology. Now, there have been several ways in which we have tried to understand economic sociology, and there has been an introductory lecture also. So, the reason that we are specifically trying to read this specific article is to get a wider understanding of the ways in which economic sociology as a branch has developed and made an attempt to understand the relationship between economy and society. So, in this lecture, The Conception and Definition of Economic Sociology, Alberto Martinelli tries to understand how economic sociology has been a bridge between economics and sociology. So, the focus is basically to understand how economy and society influence each other. So, they are not two separate, as very long time it was considered as economy, the market being separate from the society, that is the family, the household. But whatever happens in the market is dependent on the ways in which relations are constructed and built in the family and vice versa. And there is where we see the genesis of the discipline called economic sociology. So, here the understanding is that there is a reciprocal influence between economic growth, social development and cultural modernization. So, whether we make an attempt to understand social transformation or we focus on the concept of economic growth, we have to understand how the two realms are interdependent. So, in this article, Martinelli is reviewing key thinkers, which is a key social theorist like Karl Marx, Weber, Emil Durkheim, Schumpeter, Polanyi and other to understand how this relationship between economy and society has been conceptualized and understood in the social sciences. So, how do we define economic sociology? Martinelli suggests that there are different ways to define the object of economic sociology. Hence, he explores different ways to define the object of economic sociology in relation to economics and sociology. One approach, he says, is to focus on questions neglected by classical political economists such as conflict and non-rational action. He introduces the general premise of disciplinary definition, focusing on double differentiation process characterizing the revolution of modernity. So, basically he is trying to tell us that this process of modernity comes in with double differentiation, and this double differentiation is an essential concept which will help us to define economic sociology. Modernity not only led to large scale socio-economic change, but also in construction of new knowledge. This is the double differentiation, that at one level we saw a high amount of various changes taking place. So, there were kind of large scale of movement of people, there were growth of urban center, there were growth of service sector. So, these socio-economic changes were taking place, but along with the socio-economic what was happening was also the constructions of new body of knowledge. That is, there were a lot of efforts made by scholars and academicians to make sense of the transformation that is taking place. So, that is kind of dual kind of a change that is taking place. And why did we need a new form of knowledge? Because how do we interpret the change which has taken place? So, the need to interpret changing economic conditions led to the emergence of classical economics in second half of 18th century. The rise of market capitalism, bourgeois revolution and representative democracy led to a twofold differentiation process. Number one, economic structures became distinct from other social structure, making them more visible and accessible for study. The whole idea that the second level of differentiation led to the development of a culturally separate field of social science, creative simplification of classical political economy. Now, let us try to understand that according to Martinelli, classical political economy was the first social science that made a coherent and systematic attempt to understand economic and social relation in a scientific sense, thus achieving the autonomous status of a modern science. The pioneer of classical political economy was Adam Smith, and his theory was based on Homo economicus. Homo economicus is a simplified set of assumptions about human action seen as the result of behavior of isolated individuals, each pursuing his or her own interest and making free and rational choice after having calculated the prospective cost and benefit. So, a lot of time in social sciences we have heard about the debate of modernity leading to individualism, leading to rationality. So, these kind of impacted the way in which economy transformed, the way in which the market relations changed. So, it was kind of moving to a more Homo economicus status. On the basis of further set of assumptions and deductions, Adam Smith came to regard the equilibrium of market and social order as the spontaneous outcome of the profit maximizing activities of individual. While Adam Smith initially recognized moral sentiments, his later work focused on individualistic profit maximizing behavior. Classical economic theory simplified social dynamics by focusing mainly on economic factors, overlooking other important aspects of society like collective action, culture, and politics. So, if we look into the growth of the way in which classical economic theory emerges and tries making sense of the transformation happening because of the coming in of the market, because of the economy becoming important, the entire shift was towards understanding human being becoming individualist, human beings becoming privatized, and there is where we also try to understand the theory of private property, bringing about change in the family relations, and that is kind of negating away any kind of collective action, culture, and politics. This limited perspective made it hard to fully understand how the economy interacted with society. Collective action was seen as just a sum of individual action without considering social interaction. The classical economic theory, in which the focus was to understand culture or cultural value as fixed, political system without acknowledging conflict, and non-economic aspect of human interaction were completely ignored. So, the entire focus was on economic aspect and on individual. Therefore, the interaction between the individual and the society was kind of limited. This limitation of classical economic theory in the context of capitalist society focuses on two development. First, economists have altered the specific assumption of the classical school and extended its applicability. Second, other social sciences like sociology have emerged, dealing with aspects of society neglected by economists, leading to the development of more specific disciplines within it. So, on one hand, the change in the society was more towards the market, towards the economy, and theorization was also restricted to market, demand, supply, purchase, sell. And that is why we had this discipline of sociology emerging, which focused on understanding the non-economic factor. Now, economics was understanding economic factors, sociology, the non-economy, and there was something which was left in between. And economic sociology kind of emerged in order to capture the gap between economics and sociology, and also to focus on the interdisciplinary nature of the two disciplines. Industrial revolution is one of the context for the emergence of economic sociology. The various transformations which was taking place, one was industrial revolution, and we have already talked about the rise of capitalism. These two things were bringing about large social changes, including the emergence of new institutions such as modern family, urban community, law, bureaucracy. So, since the market was changing, or the way in which production was being done, or the economy was changing, it led to trigger down related changes in the society. So, we kind of started hearing about smaller agglomeration of family larger than extended family, the emergence of urban community, large scale movement of people from rural areas to industrial area, coming in of the system of law enforcement, giving up feudal nature of management and so on. Now, these transformations also brought new social problems like poverty, crime, addiction, necessitating scholarly explanation. So, if the emergence of urban community led to the poverty, they needed a science which could capture this, because the economists were only concerned in terms of understanding how the numbers in the urban area is increasing, or how it is impacting the market. Now, it is also leading to crime and poverty was neglected, and this needed to be explored. Additionally, traditional institutions such as the monarchy, church, and local communities weakened, prompting early social scientists to focus on issues of social order and integration. This concern aligns with George Simmel's fundamental question: how is society possible? Over the time, economists have adjusted the assumption, and disciplines like sociology, particularly economic sociology, have emerged to fill in these gaps and provide a broader view of the economy society relationship. Scholars like Marx, Weber, Pareto, and Polanyi contributed alternative paradigms addressing aspects overlooked by classical economists. So, if we look into all the forefathers or the founding fathers of sociology, they were kind of grappling with this problem of social order and integration, because these were the areas which had not been taken in by the classical economist or the political scientist, and therefore the need for the emergence of a discipline that would solely try to understand the decline of integration or the breakdown of the social order. So, the object of economic sociology is basically try to focus on the way in which they were neglected or considered non-problematic by classical political economists. So, a number of issues they say were considered as non-problematic or non-economic. So, for instance, for the reduce in the size of the family, or the breakdown of joint family to the nuclear family, it was kind of considered as something which was non-economic or non-problematic, and therefore were not studied by the classical economist. Now, there were a lot of other issues related to the non-problematic areas, and these were social conflict, social order, and forms of action beyond rational utilitarianism. Wherever there was this missing rationality, it was not up to the study by the political economic sociologist, and therefore the idea was to understand how. So, if we look into Marx is trying to understand again how the change in economy would kind of lead to a conflict, which was a kind of a social conflict between those who have ownership of property and those who don't have. So, this area where there was a rational utilitarian was missing was not studied and neglected. So, there were large number of scholars who have adopted new concepts and theories to address these aspects. For instance, Marx incorporated many theoretical insight from classical political economy. However, he developed a radically alternative paradigm of historical change, which formed the foundation of revolutionary praxis. The second scholar is Weber, Max Weber. He focused on the genesis of capitalism and the ideal type, institutional conditions underlying its formation, particularly the rational mentality of modern society. Pareto considered economic explanation adequate for analyzing logical action and developed theoretical construct to address non-logical actions. The other scholars are Polanyi and Schumpeter. Polanyi addressed questions about phenomena such as society's self-defense against the market environmental exploitation and political instability, which were outside the analytical realm of classical political economy. Schumpeter provided a clear-cut definition of economics and economic sociology, stating that economic analysis deal with how people behave and the economic effects, while economic sociology deals with how they came to behave as they do. So, there is a very thin line distinction between economics and economic sociology. Pareto is important to understand that he criticizes the common error of dismissing a theory because it does not explain every aspect of a concrete phenomena. Instead, he argues that the appropriate conclusion from the complexity of social phenomena is not to substitute economic theory with other theory that explains non-economic aspect. The objective should be to add these non-economic aspects to the economic theory. You need to kind of visualize how those that are considered as non-economic is influencing or has an impact on the economic, because the non-economic and the economy are in some way or the other related. So, this suggests the need for a comprehensive approach that integrates economic and non-economic factor when analyzing human behavior and social phenomena. A second approach to understand economic sociology is to define the object or the objective of economic sociology, not in terms of different object, but rather in terms of different method and theoretical apparatus. So, now then we will look into some of the approaches that has been used to define economic sociology. According to this approach, economic sociology applies the concept, theories and methods of sociology to the study of economic structure and process. It involves the application of general frame of reference, variables, explanatory model of sociology to complex activities concerned with production, distribution, exchange and consumption of scarce goods and services. This approach integrates sociological concepts and method into the study of economic phenomena, emphasizing the social aspect of economic activity. And that is the crucial aspect, that when we are understanding any economic process or economic institution, we need to look into the social aspect of those. And similarly, when we are looking into a social institution, a social phenomena, it is important to reflect on the economic dimension of that, and therefore there is kind of interconnection between what is economic and what is about social phenomena and what is social about economic phenomena. According to Martinelli, economic sociology transforms postulate and thesis of economic theory, such as rationality of the economic actor and the market as a natural spontaneous order, into research question. So, there is a lot of critical questioning, why, the how, and this is what these key social theorists have been doing. So, the key social theorists approached economic phenomena and perspective beyond traditional economic reasoning. Durkheim explained the industrial division of labor in terms of social interaction rather than productivity. So, we see he is bringing in the economic dimension to understand a process which is considered more in terms of an economy. So, the division of labor is more for the market, for the place where it is working. Emil Durkheim brings in the concept of interaction to understand division of labor rather than how the productivity would be impacted. Max Weber linked rational economic behavior to religious values rather than assuming it as given. So, he was not looking, Weber was not looking for the emergence of an economic phenomena like capitalism in the economic realm or into the market, but he is trying to kind of go across to the cultural realm and look at how religion as an institution, cultural institution, was impacting the economy or led to the growth of the capitalism. Schumpeter viewed entrepreneurship as a research problem rather than a natural outcome of resource mobility. Parson and Smeltzer attempted to integrate economic theory within a broader theory of action, arguing that economic structures both shape and are shaped by other social processes. However, their synthesis of economic and sociological perspective did not gain as much acceptance as the idea of classical theories. Now, let us try to look into some of the key theorists. And one of the key theorists, when we talk about classical economy or economic sociology, would be to kind of look into some thinkers which have been considered as classical and the way in which they approach these overlap. So, the forerunner of the economic sociology, though he belongs to the classical economist tradition, but lot of ideas can be taken from him, is Karl Marx, and he analyzed the emergence capitalism in terms of the increased private ownership of property and his conception of capital as a social relation and the idea that economy must be studied in the context of society, and this is the key. So, we take trend from there, but we do not stop where the classical economists have and look into the interaction between economy and society, and this is the core for defining and the conception and definition of economic sociology. With this, I come to an end of this lecture. Thank you.